YouTube, we're back with the Aerocommander UMX Flaps Mod video part 9. Where we left off, we were running out of memory. This is the action so far for the flaps that I've got figured out, and that might change a little bit, but I'll just give you a quick refresher. Not 100% sure that this outboard flap is going to work as configured. You can see it kind of slides through there. But it works really good so far on that side. So we're going to try to somewhat duplicate that as closely as we can. I can't say it's going to be an exact thing, but I want to try to get it as close as I can. The other thing is we need to secure this here at some point. I think for now, in our early stages of this part of the project, we need to just hold off and just be patient for a minute. I'm speaking to myself. And we'll come back to it and add some more details. We got some more of this wire here. This is where we cut it off last time. So we're going to go ahead and get this edge cleaned up. Okay, got that cleaned up. Now, I was debating about the idea of possibly being able to put in my little zigzag bend into this before I actually even slide it through. And I got to thinking about it, and I said, it's probably possible. The issue I might run into, though, is not knowing exactly where to put it. So I was thinking it might be worth a shot. I mean, this stuff is reasonably inexpensive anyway, so it's probably worth trying it, even if it's an epic fail. So I'm just going to double check. My first bend point is probably going to be something like right here. Now, which way did I grab that? So I need to bend this up. Maybe just a little bit steep. Okay, and then I need to go out. I want to try to make these as symmetrical as I can do it. So really all I need to do is just duplicate the approximate size of what we've got over here. But now this time I need to be nice and square about it. Need to flatten that out a little bit. Okay, so far we got the 1/2 done-ish. Now I just need to envision I'm lining this up with a flat surface, and then I'm going to grab the point where it intersects the line. Now I'm not lining it up on the camera, but I'll do it now on the camera. That's on the camera. Okay, so I'm lining it up with my vision. I sight over the top of the camera when I'm doing this stuff. And so that way we can get a nice straight line. But now I just need to make this very... See, we got a little bit of wiggle still. So we want to do this while it's out. It's a lot easier to do it when it's out. I was kind of surprised how well it ended up working on the other wing. I got into it and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm never going to be able to bend all this stuff the way I need to. But it seems to have worked really well. Okay, so now I'm trying to get you a backdrop where you can actually see the action happening. So as you can see, it's not perfect, but it's pretty close. We got a little bit of play out here, but I think we're good enough for what we're doing. Okay, so now I have to feed this through, so you gotta kind of be mindful of where that's going to shoot out and run into stuff at. And so the rationale behind doing this first was that if I have my channel, I should be able to just hypothetically put it in there and then just like wiggle it through. But I do have to start from, I'll probably go from the straight end, and then I'll just pull it back out once I've got my channel cut. And remember, our channel starts right pretty much at that mark right there, okay? Because that ends up lining up real close to the hinge point. So I'm going to go ahead and, now you could heat this up if you wanted to, but I'm probably just going to push it through with friction. Okay, so I got it through on this side. And by the way, I was rewatching one of my videos yesterday, doing some proofing, and I realized when we were using this camera, guys, I'm super embarrassed about it. I could totally just stick this thing in there. Of course, without the mirror on it. So basically, I just wanted to show you that if you have one of these little, whatever this thing is, you can just go in here and see what's going on. Which I'll go ahead and give you guys a shot of that real quick, because you already made the time investment. I'll get that set up and unpause it. Okay, so we got the camera back on. Hello, YouTube. And so we're looking at the plane, same orientation, if you guys can see that in the camera. And what we'll do is we'll find the nostril to enter. And I'll just hold this camera so you guys can look with me. Okay. There's a wire going under. You see that wire going under, guys? And I'm just spinning this. I just spin my fingers. Whoops. I just spin my fingers to make it change position. And you can see where that wire is going. It's going right under the action. So we should be totally fine there. And there's your linear servo that so many people love and adore. That was a hilarious joke. And there's my wires. You see my wires for the LEDs? That's the red ones right there. And then there's the ESC leads. So you can see how these things would be handy. And so you don't have to buy anything on account of me, but I'll tell you what, I thought it worked pretty awesome personally. I'm going to pause it and put this away. Okay, enough dinking around. Let's get this going. Okay, so I'm a little bit nervous as I'm pushing on this. I'm feeling pressure. And what I want to do is I want to basically try to pre-cut the hole so that I can make it a little bit more seamless. Is that a drill bit? Yes, it is a drill bit. But it's broken. Okay, good. So I'm just going to heat this up just a hair. Doesn't need to be super hot. I'm going to actually hold the plane real quick so I have better control. I'm just going to touch it. I didn't even make it all the way through. That was intentional. Because now I should be able to chase that hole through. Remember, I'm just poking holes right now. I'm not actually pushing this through permanently. See? There's our exit wound. Of course, it dug into the wing a little bit. That irritates me. So I can grab this little chunk of goodness there. Okay, so now I'm going to ride along the edge of the flap mechanism. And then I'm just going to make my penetration into the side of the fuse. I'm just going to spin it like a drill. Yeah, baby. Okay, so now, now the price we pay for having done the zigzag already. So hopefully my theory is correct, and it could be completely wrong, guys. So I'm going to try to go all the way through in as straight a fashion here. Oh, there it's out the other side. Now I just need to walk it at an angle. This is where things start falling apart in your master plan there, Brian. Okay. Uh-oh. Okay, hold on. I need to take my handy dandy shims out so that I've got something to run along so I don't damage anything. Come on. Okay, so I've got some shims to ride along at least, so it won't hopefully damage the surface of the foam as I do this. Well, now the problem is I got to get it out of there, which means I got to get it through approximately where it needs to go under. And that's going to be challenging, because now I've got this big, weird, bulky, triangular thing inside the bottom of the nacelle. I need to figure out which way it wants to go first. Oh no! You poked a hole in me, says the Aero Commander. You see that, guys? That sucks. Okay, so now I'm going to slide this down so I can find my entry point. Okay, so we have this wound here we'll have to do something about at some point. So I'm going to slip that in there. Well, it's through-ish. Okay, we're opening this, get that back to where it needs to be. Well, honestly, guys, I don't know. It's kind of like, either way, you're going to be screwed a little bit. So, just pick your poison right. You know, it's going to be about the same amount of frustration from one direction or the other. But we did get a little bit of bending there. We're going to try to straighten that out right now. I'm going to use these flat nose pliers seem to work pretty good for this sort of thing. Just give it a twist. That should take that little bit out. So there you go. There's your first view of the action. And I'm talking action like cool stuff. I'm talking action like the mechanical action of the machine. Now I think I need to get a little bit more bend on this angle. Let's get this back out. This actually is a pretty handy little tool right here I built on the last video. I think it was the last video, wasn't it? Yeah. So far, so good. And since we don't have painted surface up against the edge, we don't have to worry about hitting stuff. The problem is it blocks our view of what we're trying to do. Okay, so I need to go just a little bit steeper there. And then once we're done going a little bit steeper, we need to just go a little bit more here as well. It's going to be a little bit trickier. Okay, we got hesitation now. Probably because we need to get this a little bit tighter. Okay, a little too much. It's amazing how finicky these are, because once you get them right, they'll work perfectly. Alright, cool. So now I need to make my bend down here, and then honestly this bend will be last. So my first thing to do is to try to figure out how long that is, and it's hard to make weird measurements. So these micrometers have this little thing that comes out the bottom. So as you open it up, you've got this little thing that comes out, and that will be a measurement tool for us. So let's measure it that way. Okay, so now we can sit and look, and that looks like it's just over maybe 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so let's just go to 20 and see if that's close. It's pretty close, but we're a little bit too much. So we'll go 19. Okay, there's 19. I don't know if you guys can see the hashes. There's little hash marks on there. I don't like replacing these batteries. They're a rip-off, so I think this thing costs half as much as the batteries did, so I just don't replace them. Okay, so there's 13 millimeters. Yeah, that's pretty darn close. Okay, so now I can take and transmit that to another mark on here, but I need something that'll reach down far enough, and then I'm going to just mark that point at 13 millimeters back. Well, would you look at that little black mark? Whatever that black mark is, that black mark was almost in the perfect spot, guys. Sorry, having to adjust you a lot tonight. Okay, that's good enough. So we can put this away, and then we're good to start figuring our bend angle. Okay, so now to try to make the angles the same, what I need to do is I kind of need to like tape the flaps in the home position, so I've got at least a solid reference to work off of. And this is temporary, of course. We're just taping it here to make sure that it stays in position while we're doing this next step. You want to make sure you don't use like some sort of a permanent tape. I've been using this green stuff. It's been working really nice. And do yourself a favor and don't underdo it. I'm going to actually tape the same point twice because I don't have enough material on the inside here to tape. Okay, so that puts that stick right there at a certain angle. And we're going to try to mimic that almost exactly. So typically when you make a bend like this, you've got to brace it and then you got to bend it. So you need two tools, and you want to brace against 90. So I'm going to basically get that close. I'm just going to bend. I'm going to let go, and you can see with that parked in the home position, we need to come back and toward us just a hair. Except I kind of need this one to brace it because that seems to be working good for bracing. Okay, so I'm holding it tight this time, like really tight. And I got these bendy nose, which seems like that wouldn't work well, but it really does. They pretty much always, the bending almost always helps. Okay, it's wanting to spin on me. I'm going to have to probably go for something a little more robust here. Something with teeth so I can hold on to it tight. See, it's wanting to spin. How am I going to prevent that from spinning? I could grab it out here, but I think I'm too far away from where I'm trying to bend. We'll just try it without a tool to see how it goes. See, you'll dig into your foam. You got to be careful about that too. So obviously this is the action that we're trying to get. And then here in a few minutes we'll actually be putting some material over here to hold it down like what we did on the Cessna 182 UMX. Let's see how far off we are. Oh, I've got it taped shut. I was like, why is that so sticky? It's because it's taped. Okay, so that's good. So we've got it bent. That's actually really close now. Jeez, I got a little lucky on that. And you'll notice this angle here. That angle is exactly what I knew would happen. Okay, so once we have that kind of held down-ish, see? These are going to bend in different angles from one another. Okay, so now I need to just take and brace this and see how big of a deviation we have. It's very minimal. So I'm just going to try to do it by hand, that last little bit of bend. So I'm not 100% sure where I want that to be for my final position. But what I am 100% sure of is that I don't know. I want it to be in the optimum place so that we can hold them. We're probably going to have to try to fix these points pretty securely to the airframe, which we could come back and do that with these. The other thing I had thought about was that these could be potentially held together with these control arm adapters, or whatever you want to call them, the servo adapters. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this and see if we have freedom inside, which we do so far. That's awesome. I don't know if you guys can see it right there, but you see them hanging out together back there. Okay, so I'm going to untape. I'm going to untape this. Remember, we need that long right now, so it's just kind of annoying, but you got to deal with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of tape on the end so I don't accidentally gouge myself in the face with it. That would always ruin your day. Alright, so now that they're free, you can see how... Oh, I've got the fuse hidden. You can see how the angle is going to change as these things actuate, especially if they're held tight at the bottom. Okay. Now, if we were to slide these so that they just stayed like close to each other like this, see, as you actuate the flaps, it binds because the mechanism binds itself. Then, see, it's wanting to open and close, open and close. See how it closes and then it opens? That's exactly what I knew would happen. So that was one thing that I was planning on. Now, dealing with it is kind of a different story. And I've got some ideas. And I'm not sure which one's going to be the best. I also want them to look very similar out here. So really, ideally, that'd be centered. But the further you get out, the more the geometry differentials exist. And one thing I'm thinking about doing is, at the end of the day, it's hard to do with that. At the end of the day, the further apart they are from one another, the less that variable matters. The difference in precision, that little angle difference. So let's see if I can, I mean, it still matters, it just doesn't matter. It's not gonna bind the action up as much. So maybe further out is better. Okay. So now, if I pull in the center, there's no way to guarantee which side's gonna actuate. It's just gonna actuate the weaker side. So really what you end up with is ooh, I kind of just thought of something. If I were to cut this, which we already know we're going to cut this other half off, what am I going to use this other half? That's what I'm going to use. Okay, lay that down there. Because we are going to use that. Why don't we smooth this up real quick, because we might end up needing this smooth. All right. Got a little bit more material on the one side. Alright, so if I put this on the second hole from the end, there's nothing magical about it, it's just the way I think it's going to line up best. And the second hole from the end, then this mechanism becomes mechanically attached, but it's still allowed to pivot to a certain degree. So, you see what I'm talking about, guys? The problem is, what's going to happen is that this is going to be weak compared to the other side, I think. But if we had a couple of these that were on there together, that might still help work out my problem. Okay, so I'm going to keep that little piece there. I'm going to grab the second one here. Screw stuck in the sack. Ouch. Let's try going this way. Okay, so two different spots, guys. Yeah, see? See how it shot that off? Because it changes the angle of all this stuff. Very good things to consider. I need to slide this in. I think I want that centered, so it's going to end up being like that. So I'm going to go 3 holes in on this side and 3 holes in on the other side. For that I might need a little more control. Just like that. Okay, time for a little piece of tape, guys. This is just going to simulate for us our final coupling to the wing. Obviously, we still have some flexibility in that we can pull this off at any time. But it will really give us a good idea of if that position is going to work, because it's going to be fixed there. Once you fix things down, it sometimes makes a pretty big difference, okay? That's awesome. Okay. See? Too much play. I don't think that's going to work. I'll come back to that. Let's get the outboard flap folded in. Okay, so on the other side, we need to double check something before we can do that. We need to double check for clearance in here now that we move that. Do you guys see what I see? Oh man, we cleared just barely. Do you guys see that? See that? That rudder servo is just right there. Man, that's close. I hope that's not a problem. If it is a problem, then we'll have to figure out a way to resolve it. Okay, so what we did over here was we brought it out to approximately the midway point, and then we made our fold at 90 degrees relative. But we were actually slightly up angle, then we went back down and then back out. And not in any very specific method did we do that. So now we're going to pay the price for that abnormality that we have to build into this. So I'm going to grab this, make sure I tweak. I'm just tweaking it so it's tight. Now I'm going to take and bend it. Get me a 90-ish. Okay. I am comfortable at this point cutting this thing right there. It's too long, and I know it. Because it doesn't matter that it's too long at this point. It will eventually matter, but right now it doesn't. Okay, so we're fairly clean on that. Just a real minor wiggle. That wiggle can be corrected with just a little teeny tiny bend. Okay? Whoops. It's also going to be corrected when we tape it down. So we'll be okay there. Now, The way we accomplish good results over here is we did this bend. Let's try that. Now don't be afraid to lift it to where you can bend it at the angle you want. You see, I pulled it up and then I bent it so I could get my 90 degrees or, well, whatever that is, 30 degrees bend. And I have to lift it again to get it square, and then I can lift the angle. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about there better. Okay. So you see that action? Now it looks like I may have gone a little bit too far out, possibly, and that will impact us. So let's work through what we need to work through real quick. Now there's nobody saying they need to be exactly the same, but they need to deploy to the same position. And in order to deploy to the same position, there's a good chance they're going to have to be pretty close, like really close. And as you can see on this, I've got an angle cut, an angular cut. That's because they use side cutters to cut this. I'm okay with the side cutters cut because they're both that way. And at some point I may actually force that into the styrofoam, like on the last final maneuver